May I request the audience to come in and settle down? I see that the front row seem to be full. We will just see if any additional seats can be put in. May I request everyone on my right hand side to please clear a path. We have an audience member who needs to come in through an accessibility route, please. Ladies and gentlemen, we request you to settle down. We're just getting started.
Hello. Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for joining us for this important session titled Women in AI, a South Asia Outlook on Representation, Equity, and Empowerment. I would like to start the session with opening remarks from Tim Curtis, Director and Representative for UNESCO Regional Office for South Asia. Tim, I invite you to the podium. Thank you.
Thank you. Good afternoon, everyone. It's a pleasure, really an honor for me to be here to welcome you to this Women in AI, the South Asia Outlook on Representations, Equity and Empowerment, which is being convened for the first time, being convened here on the first day of the India AI Impact Summit 2026. And I'd like to also extend sincere, do we need to, is that better? Can you hear me now? Yeah. So I'd like to also, of course, give my sincere appreciation to our partners, UN Women, the South Asia chapter of the Women for Ethical AI Network, LinkedIn, the Quantum Hub, and of course Amrita University for coming together to advance what is both a timely but absolutely necessary regional dialogue. I think we're very aware now, it doesn't need to be repeated, but I'll repeat it, that AI is no longer a distant technological frontier, but a structuring force in our economies, in our institutions, and now in our everyday lives. Across South Asia, AI is shaping how we learn, work, how we access services, and how we participate in public life. And yet, as we embrace this opportunity, we have to confront a more difficult reality, which is that women remain unevenly represented across the AI lifecycle, from data and design to development and redeployment. And without deliberate and informed interventions and efforts, the systems we build today risk embedding and amplifying long-standing gender inequalities. The findings from the forthcoming Gender and AI Outlook study illustrate this imbalance. Women, for example, constitute only about just under 30% of AI engineering talent among LinkedIn users in India. And the number drops to 20% in Nepal and just 15% in Bangladesh. The research landscape reflects a similar pattern. Although 71% of AI publications across the 6 countries studied include at least one female author, only 26% are actually led by women as corresponding or primary authors. And this, again, underscores a persistent leadership gap in the knowledge production of AI. So for today's session, UNESCO will be presenting selected insights from our forthcoming Gender and AI Outlook study for the South Asia report, which maps where women are situated across in education, research, workforce participation, and digital access in the 6 countries we cover here from our office: Bangladesh, Bhutan, India, Maldives, Nepal, and Sri Lanka. Our partners from UN Women and LinkedIn will also present an analysis of women and the future of jobs, which offers critical perspectives on how digital transformation is reshaping skills demand and economic opportunity across the region. So as we begin, let's recognize that the choices we make today will shape who participates in, who benefits from, and who leads the AI transformation across the region. Our responsibility is quite clear: to ensure that women, girls, and minorities are not positioned at the margins of this technological shift, but at its center, as researchers, as engineers, as entrepreneurs, as policymakers and innovators. The region has the talent, the demographic strength, and the digital momentum to shape a distinctive AI future. Let's ensure that it becomes a story of strong institutional leadership, meaningful representation, and inclusive innovation. So again, in closing, I'd like to reiterate my deepest thanks to the Government of India for hosting us at this summit. My gratitude also goes to our esteemed partners who I mentioned earlier. This partnership is what has turned statistics into strategies and dialogues into change. I look forward to the insights from the upcoming presentations, and thank you once all again.
Thank you for setting the context to this important conversation. Next, we have Yusong Kim, Chief of Social and Human Sciences Sector, UNESCO Regional Office for South Asia, presenting findings from an important report, Gender in AI Outlook Study for South Asia. Thank you.
Right here. Yeah, amazing. Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for coming to listen to our presentation and panel. It's a packed room. Very excited to share some of the results, emerging results we have from the Gender and AI Outlook study for South Asia. So just to give you some context on how this emerged, we have something called the Women for Ethical AI Network, chaired by UNESCO at headquarters. And here in the South Asia Regional Office, we decided to make a South Asia chapter. And basically what this is women working in the field of AI engineering skills, we have a lot more data there that dates back to 2016. But again, horrendously, we can see that the Indian women average is increasing. We're following up to the global women average, but still it's at 30% barely. Whereas the Indian men statistics, you can see it starts with 74%, and it's still much, much greater than women. This same pattern is repeated for AI literacy skills, where we only have not enough data yet, but we will continue to track. But across 2023 and 20, again, it is repeated that there are huge gender disparities. Next slide, please. Now, this is repeated across all industries that LinkedIn tracks. So if you look at the side, we have 5 industries: education, professional services, financial services, technology and media, manufacturing. Over and over again, the same story repeats. Women, out of all of the people in India who are registered saying that they work in the education sector, only 30% of women say they have AI engineering skills. So the same pattern continues. I know I'm running out of time, but I have another really interesting research that we did. In terms of the South Asia, was definitely much more in public universities. So out in the report. And the fact that in other countries other than India, where we didn't have the LinkedIn data, it's still very difficult to understand the actual situation of how many women are being represented in the AI workforce. So I'll stop here, and please look for follow us so that we can we'll publish and have a report launch event in June this year. Thank you.
Can we please request the room officers to shut the doors? Can we have the doors closed, please? Thank you. Um, Thank you, Yusa. Next, we have Imad Kareem, Advocacy and Innovation Coordinator, UN Women, Regional Office, Asia and Pacific. He'd be presenting findings from a report titled Women and Future Jobs. Thank you.
Thank you. Hello, everyone. Oh, come on, it's midday. You can do this. Once upon a time, back in the 90s, something miraculous were invented and promised to democratize information, access to opportunities, access to growth, and access to all services without discrimination. That was the internet. It didn't. It was a false promise. And we see this, we've seen this before. back when the cars were invented, when every industrial revolution, when it doesn't take into consideration women and girls, their stories, their background, and all the inherited inequality in the world. Once upon a time, in 2023, generative AI boomed. Everyone got a chatbot, everyone got a tool. Now everyone is promised an agent that will transform businesses, services, education, and even well-being. We've seen the same stories. It is happening again. And from young women, we thought that we should not let this happen. And it should not, this vicious cycle should stop right now. By looking into the data, learn from that history, learning from our mistakes in development, and we are counting on all of you to lead this work. Because gender equality should not be the job of just women and girls to do it on their own, should not be the job of UN Women or just nonprofit. It should be the job of everyone. Every man and woman, every gender, every policymakers. And today we're going to look into some of the data that we were happy partners with LinkedIn that kind of a sample from more than 300 million users across Asia and the Pacific to give us an indication of how the data, how generative AI will be impacting women's and future jobs. So we're going to start with some of the skills related. So right now, before generative AI, if you were in 2016 to 2023, you see that even if you didn't change your job, the skill set that is needed for that job have changed by more than 40%. By 2023, we have two indicators here. Without generative AI, those skills will be changing by more than 50%. With the acceleration of AI, it will change by 71%. Next, please. So LinkedIn kind of made 3 different categories of jobs based on competencies and skills. The first one is insulated by AI. Those are not going to be the jobs that will be highly impacted, a little bit safe, and you see that would require skills, human interaction skills. Like a farmer, a nurse, a doctor. AI is not going to replace their job yet. The second and third categories, those are the jobs that will be disrupted. Those are going to be highly impacted by AI. AI is already replacing some of those jobs. Surprise, surprise, one of those are the creators of AI, software engineers. And it's not going to stop there. It's going to move into other jobs. And once that industry starts automating, then they're going to look into the other industry that will come up soon. And then there's going to be the third category of augmented, which we now see a little bit of a mix between AI working with the people. So what do we discover from this data that is impacting women? Next, please. So women are typically in highly concentrated in the jobs that will be disrupted and augmented. Historically, women have been concentrated on low-paid jobs, low-secured jobs, and men have been in the concentration of the highly paid, more secure, and getting those privileges. But the data is massive, and some countries here, like India, Bangladesh, Pakistan, you will see a high concentration that some of those jobs, some of the women's jobs will be affected up to 80%. When it comes to the skills, we're seeing also women are less likely to switch to a more insulated or secure job. They switch from one disrupted job to another disrupted job. So that's also a dangerous part when that transition is not safe for women, when the system are not helping them adapt and prepare for those better jobs that would come. Next, please. I'm not going to spend too much time. We're seeing like that historical gap between men and women in the skills. We still see women are less likely to be in the AI engineering and the skills. Next, please. I'm going to run now. The good thing is that this brief is already published. We're going to give you a link to it. You can read through it. But what is really important to know is that there is a massive need now to support women and girls to upscale, to adapt, to make system offer those kind of concentration to not just the skills, and we're giving AI to women everywhere. It's mostly about policies, supporting startups, supporting founders, women founders, supporting businesses, and that's not going to happen without the support from governments to issue policies, from the bank to give security of the services and loans to women to adapt to this kind of work. Next, please. You can scroll through the last session where we have the QR code. I highly recommend that you read this report. There's a lot of information, but also recommendation if you're working in policy, if you're working in program, if you are in the financial services. Please consider it. Keep working on this. Put women and girls in your heart and mind. And even here in this conference, please raise the gender flag everywhere you go. Thank you.
It is. Okay. Thank you, Ahmad. Now we move on to our panel session titled Gendered Lens to AI Discourses on Equity and Empowerment. I request the audience in welcoming the panelists. We have Anita Gurumurthy, Executive Director, IT for Change. Aditi Namdeo, Independent Data and AI Policy Expert. Leki Chodhan, CEO, Dragon Coders from Bhutan. We have Aditi Jha, Board Member and Head of Legal and Government Affairs at LinkedIn. We have Dr. Menon, Professor, School of Computing from Amrita University. And this panel is moderated by Aprajita Bharti, founding partner from TQH. Over to you, Aprajita. Thank you.
Hi, Ishita. Thank you. And you know what a great room we have. I'm feeling bad for a lot of people who've not been able to enter the room. I hope they can watch this on YouTube. But you know, when it comes to tech policy discussions, often gender is considered a side issue. Clearly, this room doesn't think that. And I think in the last week, we have also seen in India, you know, we've had IT rules have been revised, and a lot of it is actually driven by gendered issues around non-consensual intimate imagery. So clearly, gender is not a side issue when it comes to AI governance, and that's what we are discussing today. Anita, I want to come to you first. I think in your work, you have consistently argued that, you know, AI governance must be rooted in feminist political economy of data. And from a South Asian perspective, how do you think that the existing AI governance, if there is one, you know, falls short in addressing structural differences in how gender is perceived in different parts of the world, and especially this part of the world?
Thank you very much, and it's a pleasure to be here, and congratulations on this wonderful research study. I just wanted to say that the question of data or numbers or representation in whatever form, even in the pre-algorithmic age, is exceptionally important because it somehow defines the reality, even if it doesn't define the truth. And that's really the struggle, right? I mean, constantly to visibilize and bring to the surface the reality and truth of women and the reality and truth of gender. So without ado, I just have a few points really to talk about what is so significant about data and what is this approach to a feminist lens. So first, the critique or the challenges, which is that unrepresentative data, as we all know, leads to reproduction of gender inequalities, and we've seen that time and again. And kudos to the team that really decided to unearth the data at UNESCO, because really it is valuable to have even that much. But what we find really in various governmental efforts, you know, all of us know about data stacks. So when traditional statistical systems enter these data stacks, and you really have a lack of parity in terms of you know, these traditional data sets. For example, land records or RTC records, which become part of digital data stacks at the national level, you might actually invisibilize cultivators, wage labor, women who record themselves as peasants and farmers, because they may not actually have land titles. So the RTC records may not be a good proxy really to show how women participate in agriculture. And this, of course, will lead to gender blindness in downstream innovation. And therefore, you actually think of women who are innovators in agriculture really not as 1 minute and 30 seconds. Is that what it is? Okay. No, yeah. But I think adding to that is the new challenge of born digital data, where algorithms really make several inferences about identity characteristics. And this is really a serious problem because the way in which an ad comes to you, or if you're denied a bank loan, all of this is really because of the way in which algorithmic architectures are organized in the platform economy. The third I want to say is that mostly in South Asia, the Data Protection Act does not really provide for very, very good protections, particularly from a gendered perspective. And this is really evident in the definitions or the lack of definitions of sensitive personal data in the health domain, etc. I would also like to point, just to wrap up, that we have to look at women in all their roles. Women are citizen subjects, first and foremost. They're also economic agents, and they're participants in the public sphere. And in each of these respects, we have to really think about the data systems. And I would strongly point to the emergence of the lack of data on gig work. And I would like to point to a very important aspect of the data of women workers that are invisibilized in global value chains. These are data workers, these are content moderators. And just as we visibilize women as economic agents, we really have to also look at the class of women from an intersectional perspective, where are they actually located in these international AI value chains? Because I think for women, the costs of organizing are very, very high. They don't have trade unions. They cannot really visibilize themselves. Of course, I'm making a sweeping generalization. So to really conclude, I would like to say that the situation in the data and AI economy is aiding a new kind of compact, a new kind of contract between capitalism and patriarchy. Of course, the state is complicit, but I think we really need to do something to dismantle this. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Anita. And I think you've opened a Pandora's box with your last sentence. Aditi, I want to come to you. You have had extensive experience with the World Economic Forum and, JPAL. And you have also been looking at how AI how AI is transforming our governance systems. And it is more likely to happen in Global South because our existing governance systems are in want of a lot of, improvement. So what do you think are the gendered consequences of what's happening, if you can?
Am I audible? Yeah,
Yes.
great. No, I think Anita has given us a very good setting of what the problems are and what's the landscape here. But just before I answer this question, my own dabbling into innovation started. I'm a computer science engineer. I was one of the 6 girls in a class of 36 people. And I started dabbling into innovation and tech by coding. So my own journey as girl in STEM really started from developing products, developing IT, to looking at how these big transformation projects were being handled by big teams, which were disproportionately managed by and represented by men over women. So I've seen the space, and then dabbling with my own policy and research background, a little bit less research, more policy, with the World Economic Forum, where we did the first experiments on actually looking at medicine from the sky, or looking at how innovation and tech policy was playing a role. To going on to my stint at the Reserve Bank, where we were looking at how financial inclusion in the country is opaque because of lack of data, because you had more women accounts, but you didn't know whether they were being actively used, or there was money, and whether the accounts were actually primarily held by women and how much control they had on those accounts. to the point where working with JPAL very more recently, where JPAL themselves undergo a lot of evaluation. They take a lot of evaluations of work, of how some of these schemes work. So whether it's the Pradhan Mantri Jan Dhan Yojana or public dispersal systems, innovation has played a key role from the time, and my own personal experience where you have seen the UPI, the India stack. But what has happened is that while the governments are now picking up on AI governance as an efficiency tool, efficiency also comes with a lot of accountability. So I think with the whole AI and governance, what big looming problem we have is it will improve inclusion by the nature of it, but it will intensify stratification. And that will happen because the data which is feeding these systems may not represent not only gender, but various other elements of stratification, whether that's caste, whether that's disability, whether that's women, all of it included. So I think there's a lot for us to mull over in terms of how do we audit these systems, what data is going in training these systems. Very recently, while the South Asia Outlook report was being created, and I spent some time past month with the team developing this report, I went back to the drawing wheel to say, how do you actually look at women representation from girls who are, taking up STEM courses, to them going into jobs which are using these skills to develop those products, to then going into assignments where you govern these projects and who is monitoring these projects. So I think there is an inadequate and disproportionate deployment, or you will see the data surface with this report, that women actually are there in STEM, but as you grow up the chain of jobs, you'll find less and less women governing these projects, these big transformational projects, these big monitoring projects. And that is where we need more women representation to be able to fend through these harms that we are seeing. I have more to offer, but I'm sure our panelists can add. But thanks.
Thanks, Aditi. Leki, I want to come to you. You have traveled from Bhutan, and you have had a very interesting experience of building like an IT services company in Bhutan. So, India has a thriving tech ecosystem, and of course, we are a large population. But for a smaller country like Bhutan, what kind of challenges do you see, especially in the tech ecosystem, but from a gender perspective as well?
Thank you, Aparajita. First of all, thank you for having me here. It's lovely to connect with all of you here in India. Speaking from my experience leading Dragon Coders, my company is called Dragon Coders, so we do software development, all the tech systems. What I experienced, what I found is that with gender inclusivity, it starts from schools, so in Bhutan's case is very interesting. Like, it's small, but it is very mountainous. We have 20 districts. Districts are distributed and separated by mountains and rivers. So girls do not get exposure to AI programs early enough, and it's not enough to build interest, and the inspiration is not there. So that's one challenge. Our schools and our universities, colleges are still adjusting, like incorporating the programs, robotics, AI programs into the curricula, and it's taking time. So it takes time to build infrastructure, to upskill the resource person, and all that. Another challenge I see in Bhutan's context is the lack of visible role models, you can say. Yeah, I can be one, but I'm not so popular and all that. Yeah, yeah. So that's there. So when there is no someone to mirror yourself in that role, it's a program. So it's difficult for young girls to take up such things, and also. In Bhutan, still our internet ISP, internet speed is it's not good enough, and it's quite expensive. Yeah, and then so in rural areas, it becomes more like less robust internet. Our ISP providers are working in improving that one, but it's taking time. So we are having several other issues, like maybe it's also the girls coming from financial vulnerable families. Their immediate attention or investment is on something that will come back fast, and AI and learning AI and all that requires time and investment from personal point of view. Other thing is you can say socio or culture related issues. In Bhutan, although our development progress is progressing fast, and then our development philosophy is based on happiness, like gross national happiness, girls are still seen as the primary homemakers. So we still need a shift in all that area. Thank you.
Thank you. Aditi, I want to come to you. I think a lot of data has already been shared from LinkedIn Economic Graph. But I know that you sit on even more data than what has been shared. So I think it'll be great to understand that, what are the gender patterns that are emerging in AI-driven job market, and how quickly is everything going to change around us?
Thank you. So first, I want to call out the amazing work that UN Women and UNICEF and UNESCO have done with our data. It gives me great pride that the data that we have is contributing to effective policy making. You said we have a lot of data. We do. I agree. I'm not going to deny that. So a little bit context about what this LinkedIn data is, what LinkedIn Economic Graph is, which you've heard about. So it's basically all the member signals that we get from our 1.3 billion members, about 170 million in India. We have about 40,000 skills, millions of companies. Every job is listed there with the skills that's required. So what that does give us is a unique worldview and a real-time, nuanced worldview into what's happening in the world of work. And for the last couple of years, what we've done is we've looked at this LinkedIn Economic Graph and what's happening to the world of women when it comes to work. So you've seen a lot of our charts already, so I'm not going to double click on any of them, but just leave you with a couple of points. So first is there is a top of the funnel problem when it comes to AI. We heard that whichever country you look at, not more than 30% of the current AI talent is female. So there is a top of the funnel problem. If we look at outside of AI, even in professions where women form, say, 50% or close to 50% of the entry-level workforce, by the time we get to C-suite in those jobs, leadership level has fallen to 12%. So I shudder to think when we look years on with a starting level of 30% in AI talent female, when you get to leadership levels, what that number is going to look like. Today we're at sort of the first floor or ground floor of this transition, right? Ahmad said in the 90s the internet came, nobody thought about gender. But at least today we're on the first floor, ground floor, we're discussing this as an issue. So what can we do to fix the top of the funnel, that we're not sitting in a room 5 years later and saying that, oh, there are no AI talent leaders. That's one. The second, you heard about that there are these hard skills when it comes to AI. Everyone talks about LLMs and et cetera. The very interesting piece that we've seen is that where tasks become automated, right? Think of your job and think of all the component tasks and how you spend your day. If all those tasks can get automated, then what is important? What do we bring as humans to work? We bring our soft skills, we bring our humanity. Things that will become important in an AI world are things like, can you communicate effectively? Are you a good leader? Do you have empathy? Can you do critical thinking? Can you do creativity? These are the skills that is going to be super important in an AI forward world. Interestingly, what we've seen is that women are good at this stuff. If you look at LinkedIn data and skills listed, women list a lot more soft skills than men do, right? So here is an opportunity, but it's a little bit Dickensian, and it's a it's good times, bad times. So I led with the good times. The bad time is that, Emma, you alluded to it. If you also look at jobs that are going to get disrupted versus those that are insulated and augmented, women, one second. Women tend to hold a lot more of those jobs which are going to be disrupted. Just think of us, a lot of the work that we do as customer service representatives, paralegals in law firms, a bulk of those jobs are held by women, and those are the jobs that are very easily automated, and those are going to get disrupted. So how do we ensure that that this transition is equitable? We get more women on the ground floor. We get more women to leverage the soft skills that are going to be the currency in the world to come. And how do we ensure that jobs that are going to get disproportionately affected or disrupted because of AI, how do we ensure that we do transitions to the ones that are augmented and insulated? I'm going to stop.
Great. Thank you so much. Thanks, Aditi, for adding a positive note to all of this, saying that we are better at some of the soft skills and maybe that may help. Vivek, sorry, this is not meant to be discriminatory as the only man in the panel coming to you in the last, but it just so happened. Sorry. But I think one of I mean, you are at a university. So I think the question is that we've already heard about the fact that data systems determine what AI finally comes out with, and our data systems inherently have a problem because there's more data about men than women. So, what do academic institutes, like, what role can they play in solving for this? And for example, any examples that you have from your own work or projects that you've seen from around the world?
Yeah, thank you for having me here. It's a really a privilege and honor to be part of this important conversation. Universities are actually at a central theme as far as this particular situation is concerned, because they nurture talent and also the value system. So since we are now talking about a situation where we are experiencing this kind of gender inequalities, and a lot of this is actually a data and representation bias which is built in over the period of time. And as even in the UN report that Yusong was mentioning, she was mentioning about Scopus data being accessed, and the global API failed to capture the Indian context or the South Asian context. So what has happened is primarily a lot of these systems have been trained on data that were from a particular context, and a model is only as good as the data it sees. And so thereby what is really happening is the talent pool has to be sensitized right from design time, that you need to have a diverse pool of data if your model needs to really perform well across populations. And this is something that we need to kind of embed right from the university level, where they get trained on all the software engineering talent, that they get exposed. So as far as our university, at Amrita University, headed by our Chancellor Amma, Srimata Amritanandamayi Devi, a renowned humanitarian leader, we not only emphasize the education for living, which is a regular focus of all universities, we also focus on education for life, where how do we become a better human being, and all these value systems and the ethics that we talk of actually get embedded into this. So one of the interesting aspects that I would like to highlight here is our trademark Live-in Labs program, where we have teams of multidisciplinary students and faculty who actually go to villages, where we have actually identified some of the villages, and they embed themselves in the context in the village for at least a few weeks to months. And this interdisciplinary team actually tries to actually identify a problem. So this is actually students and faculty from different departments and schools. And they try to now solve this problem in a manner where you try to factor data diversity. You also try to ensure that all these constraints are also brought in, because every different context, and even we can see that even within states, from state to state, the sensitivities change. So this is something that we often try to inculcate right from the beginning of our program. And also, like, we are fortunate in the sense that we have a lot of women leaders in our university at different schools and centers who actually are at the helm of driving or spearheading a lot of cutting edge initiatives in interdisciplinary AI programs. So this actually begins from them, in the sense like they ensure that the students and faculty also take part in something and are sensitized to this early on. So basically, to sum up, it is not an afterthought, something that needs to be brought in right in the beginning.
Absolutely. And I think education institutions have such a big role to play in that. Fortunately, we have time for 2 audience questions. Thank you, Survi, for keeping everybody on time. Does anybody have any question? No, we don't have. Oh, damn. Okay. Sorry, I tried my best. But, yes.
We have a LinkedIn booth in 4.7 with a lot more data than this. So if anyone wants to come and play around.
Okay, great. Great. So then can I invite Kantaji to please cap this discussion, and hopefully we can continue our conversations outside this room after this panel.
Thank you. Surabhi, how many minutes do I have? 3 minutes. Okay, wonderful. Thank you. And I'm so very pleased to see so many young women here in the room. I wish these many engineers are there in the designing rooms where we are designing solutions. Some of those. Can you hear me now? Yes. Oh, thank you. I'm saying I'm very pleased to see you all, particularly the young women. And I'm hoping and I wish that these many women are there in the designing rooms where solutions are designed. However, just to give you brief context about today's discussion, all of them, and I was really listening very, very intently, because you talked about problems to solutions to also hope. 3 things that I wanted to talk about. One is there's no difference between the aspirations of rural women and urban women. So we need to stop talking about now women in, women in rural areas, women in urban areas. You talk to any girl in rural areas and they also want to do what Aditi is doing, or they also want to do what this Aditi is doing. So because there is access to information now. So we need to start skilling them and bringing them into right jobs. And jobs that are not going to be disrupted by AI. In fact, we should be putting them there. Second is the language that we use in the AI, and also who is putting that language there, who's going to benefit from it, who's going to be disadvantaged because of those things. And the study shows that if women don't put their skills, all of us know AI, but we don't put it in our CV. We don't put it in our LinkedIn profile. So we are less likely to be picked up for those jobs which are also meant for us. So we need to be aware about who gets hired and because of what. So be a little more smart about those things. The third thing is, of course, about leadership and governance of AI. And I think we are at a very critical junction when we start moving from side events to the main events like this. Since morning, this is my 3rd session on gender, and I'm extremely pleased that we have come center stage. Don't leave the rooms now. Enter every room and talk about these issues like what Ahmad was saying. Don't miss a single opportunity. And I'll just give you one 30-second example. Recently, we had a discussion with 20 MPs, tech companies, Government of India, to say how non-consensual images are still going on the internet. Who is responsible for removing them? Who is going to regulate that kind of content which is non-consensual? And 2 days back, we saw the government order. I'm not saying it is because of our effort, but all of us are saying the same things. Unless all of us talk about these issues that impact our lives, particularly not in the right sense, I'm sure government will take note of that. And government did take note of those discussions. I think some MPs also took up these issues. So please speak up, please be there, please get counted. If you are not part of the data that is being generated now, you are going to be out of the data, which is going to impact our lives and the generations ahead. So thank you, and thanks to Tim and the team, and for all the other amazing partners, LinkedIn, TQH, and South Asia AI for ethical AI for South Asia.
Women for ethical AI.
Women for ethical AI for South Asia. Sorry, मुझे पढ़ना नहीं आता यार. मैं पढ़ूंगी तो गलती करूंगी, so मैं इसलिए मैं गलती कर जाती हूँ वैसे भी. But all the partners, amazing partnerships, and the panelists, we are really delighted to be part of these conversations, and please keep these conversations going wherever you go. Thank you very much.
All right, so thank you to all our esteemed panelists. May I request the audience to please hold on for just a moment. We will be distributing the mementos to our esteemed panelists.